was removed from office, and the board voted to hold her personally responsible for the $10,000 fine, the $4,700 waterline repair, and the $3,500 cost to restore my yard. As the meeting ended, Karen sat stunned. When only a few of us remained, she finally spoke, her voice trembling. "This is a witch hunt. You'll be hearing from my attorney." She looked directly at me. "Especially you, Daniel. This isn't over." I smiled. "Actually, Karen, I believe it is. The next HOA meeting is the first Tuesday of next month. As a resident, you're still welcome to attend. I hear the first agenda item is a community-wide native plant initiative. You might find it educational." With that, Karen stormed out, slamming the door so hard the bulletin board fell off the wall, a final punctuation mark to her reign as HOA president. It all started with a letter in my mailbox, notice of violation, unapproved landscaping modification. I stared at it, confused. The only recent change I had made was a small garden bed along my front walkway, filled with native wildflowers to attract pollinators. According to the notice, I had failed to submit the proper documentation before making alterations to my lawn, violating Covenant Section 7.3, Paragraph 12. The letter demanded I remove the garden immediately or face daily fines. I decided to handle the matter calmly. The next day, I gathered my landscaping plans and photos, then walked to the community center where Karen held office hours. I knocked on the door. She looked up from her laptop, her reading glasses perched on her nose. "Daniel Mercer, right? From Cedar Lane?" she asked, offering a thin smile. "Yes, that's me," I replied, sliding the notice across the desk. I checked the bylaws before installing the garden. Native plants under 20 square feet don't require prior approval. Karen's smile vanished immediately. "I've reviewed all community guidelines since taking office, and we're enforcing them properly now. Your garden is an eyesore that lowers property values." I stayed calm. It's well within the size limits, uses approved native plants, and is neatly bordered. I have all the documentation to show it's in compliance. Karen handed the notice back. "The board's decision is final, Mr. Mercer. Remove it by Friday or face fines of $50 per day." I emailed the entire HOA board that evening, providing my documentation and referencing the bylaws exemption. 2 board members actually responded, agreeing that my garden met the requirements. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. The following Monday, I returned home to find a landscaping crew in my front yard. They had already torn up half my garden, flowers scattered across the lawn. Standing at the edge of my property, arms crossed, was Karen, clearly enjoying the spectacle. "What's going on here?" I asked, struggling to keep my anger in check. "Enforcing compliance," Karen said smugly. "You were given time to fix the violation. Since you refused, the HOA has the right to fix it and bill you for services rendered. Section 12.4 of the Covenant." "You can't do this," I said, pulling out my phone to show her the emails from 2 board members confirming I was in compliance. "As president, I have emergency authority when violations impact community standards," Karen replied coldly. "Your garden is lowering curb appeal for the entire street." I noticed they weren't just removing the garden bed, they were digging up my entire lawn. "We're installing proper landscaping," Karen said sweetly. "Uniform St. Augustine sod, as required by community standards. Your irrigation system will also need adjustments, all billable to you." I was alarmed. "No one approved this. You can't just redesign my yard without permission." "Actually, I can," Karen snapped. "The board granted me discretionary authority for beautification projects. This qualifies." I stepped back, pulling out my phone to call Margaret, the HOA treasurer. She was stunned by what was happening and promised to come over. Meanwhile, the workers stopped digging at one point, looking puzzled. The supervisor approached Karen, saying, "Ma'am, we've hit something underground. Looks like a utility line." Karen waved him off. "Work around it. We're on a schedule." The worker hesitated. "We really should confirm what it is before continuing. Could be gas." I stepped forward cautiously. "That's not gas. That's the main water line to my house. You've just caused a major breach." Moments later, water began spurting from the ground, forming a widening pool across my yard. The pressure was intense, shooting muddy water several feet into the air. The workers scrambled to move their equipment while Karen stood frozen, her shoes already soaked. "This is exactly why we don't dig without proper utility marking," I said, pulling out my phone. "I'm calling 911. Karen quickly snapped, "Don't you dare. This is an HOA matter, and we'll handle it internally." "This is a public utility emergency," I replied, dialing the number anyway. By the time emergency services and the water company arrived, my front yard had turned into a muddy pond. Neighbors gathered, many filming with their phones. Karen tried to control the narrative, whispering to neighbors, but most were more interested in the unfolding disaster than her explanations. The utility workers quickly shut off water to my section of the street and began assessing the damage. The lead technician, Rita, approached me. "This is serious," she said. "No one called for utility location services before digging. It's illegal."